Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. Dilworth is New Zealand's wealthiest school and sold itself as a haven for vulnerable students from broken homes.
But a damning 500-page report into sexual abuse there has laid bare how for decades the Auckland school's leaders and staff betrayed those vulnerable students and the families who sent them there. Investigations correspondent Michael Morra is with us now for more on this. Michael.
Yeah, well, guys, this report states that sexual abuse was committed consistently at Dilworth from the 1950s right through until 2005. Investigators say 175 former students reported being sexually abused, but the report said the real number could be higher. Some students were shared among staff for the purpose of sexually abusing them. School leaders failed to investigate complaints against staff, obstructed police and allowed perpetrators to resign, and then lied about their sudden departures. Neil Harding has been engaged in a years-long struggle to get the truth. Today, this report exposed in all its horror what really went on at Dilworth.
The last thing they've wanted is the truth to come out, and the truth is out. And this is our day of reckoning.
The report we are releasing today is a catalogue of damage and injustice.
Students were sexually abused by school leaders, including tutors, housemasters, chaplains, teachers, volunteers and friends of staff. Grooming and abuse of students taught them how to assault others. The school board allowed offenders to resign, some getting payouts in the process. The community was not told the truth about staff when they suddenly departed, and the board offered limited assistance to police despite knowing staff had pertinent information.
When you have a trust board that is covering up abuse, the school is not safe.
The inquiry report says there was collusion among abusers and that students were shared between staff. Neil Harding experienced that. He says former housemaster Rex McIntosh sent him to Scoutmaster and convicted sex offender Ian Wilson. The report states McIntosh asked Wilson if he had got his own boy yet. When Wilson said no, McIntosh said he'd sought it out for him. But what's worse than that, in Harding's view, is the way the abuse continued.
Has Dilworth been more concerned about reputation and money than the safety of children?
Yes, and that's the problem. This is worse than anything that the pedophiles did. This is bigger. They perpetuated the environment for a pedophile farm.
Important files on another sex offender, school chaplain Peter Taylor, were accidentally destroyed.
I do not believe that could ever be an accident. You just don't destroy school files.
Complaints were routinely ignored. Those who spoke up were punished. This was against a backdrop of extreme violence. The sexual assaults on Byron Lennon turned him to drugs and booze.
My alcohol and drug addiction was rampant. This is for years.
He ended up in a gang in Sydney and eventually in jail.
How long did you spend in jail in Aussie?
So I spent 2 years, 6 months in Silverwater.
He was deported back here in 2016. Now 2 years clean, he's pleased to see the report, but he's not convinced by Dilworth's apology and talk of transformation.
It's all a bit late to say an apology now, just because they've been caught out. But I hope that now and in the future Dilworth puts in place things to establish like a safe school.
And he urges others who are suffering in silence not to give up.
I just want the Dilworth boys to know that they're not alone.
If the time feels right, come and stand with us.
The school was founded in 1906 by farmer James Dilworth to help the disadvantaged. Survivors say if he was still around, he'd be horrified.
So, Michael, what has Dilworth School had to say?
Yeah, well, Yannicka, we did request interviews with both the current headmaster and the chair of the board, but this was declined, which was surprising because this report is probably one of the worst I've ever read in my career, to be honest. Instead, we were sent a statement from Aaron Snodgrass, the board chair, who he apologised to former students, acknowledged their courage for speaking up, and said Dilworth is focused on student safety in all aspects of its work. Now, the report made 19 recommendations, one of which called for a total transformation of the Dilworth board. So essentially a massive overhaul. The school says it will consider these recommendations. Now, people like Neil Harding say that is not good enough, and he's hoping that further criminal charges will come about as a result of the information and evidence gathered in this report.
Investigations correspondent Michael Morrow, tēnā koe.